Have you ever found yourself standing there, maybe at a new job or waiting in line somewhere, or even just, before things get started at a party, and you want to say something in English, connect with someone, but, well, your mind just goes blank?
Oh, yeah. That quiet moment kind of stretches out.
Exactly. And you're thinking, okay, what do I even say right now? That awkward silence can feel huge, like a wall.
It's a really, really common feeling, I think,
Yeah.
especially for anyone who's navigating conversations in a language that maybe isn't their first. That hesitation, it often comes from not knowing. Like, where do I even start? What topics are okay? What's light enough for just, meeting someone?
Or even just keeping a simple exchange going naturally, right? Not letting it drop after one sentence.
Exactly. It can be super frustrating.
Yeah.
It feels like you're missing chances to, I don't know, build a connection or just feel a bit more comfortable in those everyday spots where English is the main language.
Totally. But that feeling, that exact frustration, we're going to tackle it head on today. We've got some really interesting material that came our way. It's basically like a guide focusing specifically on mastering this thing called small talk in English.
Yeah, this deep dive is all about unpacking what's in this material. It really digs into the nuts and bolts of small talk, like defining what it actually is, explaining why it's way more than just, idle chatter, and giving us some clear, practical ways to handle those first few conversational steps.
Okay, so our mission here is to take everything this material offers and, well, make it really actionable for you, the listener. We're going to explore the definition, understand why it's so significant in a lot of English-speaking cultures. We'll get specific about good topics.
And crucially, the ones to maybe avoid.
Yes, very important. And also look at how understanding the whole cultural side of it can really help you feel more confident, sound more natural when you're speaking English.
The goal really is to move past that kind of awkward feeling, to give you the understanding, the tools to feel more prepared and, frankly, just more comfortable. Because the material really frames small talk as a foundational skill. It's pretty vital for building connections and just navigating the social world in English.
All right, let's dive in then, starting right at the beginning. Based on what we've learned from this material, what is small talk? What are we actually talking about here?
Well, fundamentally, the material defines it as light, casual conversation. It specifically says it's not about deep or serious topics. The focus is really on everyday things, the low-stakes aspects of life, stuff that's easy to talk about.
Okay, so think surface level. We're not jumping straight into, like, our deepest life philosophies or complex political analysis or our biggest personal problems. Not right away, anyway.
Definitely not. Keep it light, keep it simple.
And the material makes this really crucial point. This isn't just pointless chatter. It actually serves some very specific purposes.
Exactly. It highlights several key functions. First off, it helps people feel comfortable, in a shared space or situation. It's like a social lubricant. Makes the whole atmosphere feel less stiff, less formal, maybe.
That makes so much sense. It's really about breaking the ice, isn't it? Easing into things rather than just bang starting the main event or whatever the reason is you're there.
Precisely. And it also plays a role in building connections, even if those connections are, brief or temporary.
Yeah.
It's about acknowledging the other person, establishing just a baseline level of rapport, saying, I see you, fellow human.
Yeah, and importantly, it makes potentially awkward social situations less awkward. That silence we mentioned at the start. Small talk is basically the accepted way to fill that gap, right? To overcome it.
It absolutely is. It's the standard tool for that job in many cultures.
It's kind of like the social equivalent of clearing your throat before you speak, but like doing it together with the other person. The material uses a great example, really relatable. Imagine two strangers sitting next to each other on an airplane.
Right. And the point it makes is that these two people, they're not going to immediately start discussing their, deepest anxieties or their relationship problems or how stressed they are about work.
God, no. That would be incredibly weird and super uncomfortable for everyone involved, right? They just met.
Totally inappropriate for that context. So instead, the material points out they might say something incredibly simple, mundane even, like, wow, looks like we're going to have a smooth flight today. Or maybe, gosh, this flight is packed, isn't it?
Right.
Or just commenting on the view.
Yeah, something really basic about the shared situation.
And that tiny comment, smooth flight today, it does all that work we just talked about. It breaks the silence, but in a really non-threatening way. It acknowledges the shared context. They're both on the same plane looking at the same sky. And it kind of opens a little door for more chat if either person wants to push it open.
Makes the whole experience feel a bit more comfortable, less like you're just sitting next to a silent object for hours.
Exactly. It's a perfect, low-risk way to just acknowledge another person sharing your space. A little signal of friendliness, maybe.
That example really clarifies it. It's about noticing a shared reality, a shared moment, and just pointing it out gently. Now, the material also puts a lot of emphasis on the cultural significance of small talk, especially in English-speaking cultures. This is really key for learners, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely crucial. And the material hammers this point home. It says that in many English-speaking cultures, think the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, places like that, small talk isn't just like an optional nice thing to do.
Yeah.
It's often expected. It's a standard part of how people interact in lots of situations, almost like a little ritual.
Expected. Wow. So if you don't do it or you try to bypass it, people might actually notice, and maybe not in a good way.
Yeah, the material suggests exactly that. It says that trying to jump straight into serious stuff without any of that preliminary light chat can feel a bit weird, or maybe too formal, even cold.
Right. It mentions the example of walking into a work meeting.
Hmm. That's a great one. The contrast is stark.
Hmm.
Imagine walking into a meeting room, say, in New York or London. And according to this material, if you just immediately say, okay, let's start the quarterly report discussion, without any kind of warm-up.
Like, no, hey, how was your weekend? Or crazy weather out there, huh?
Exactly. If you skip all that, the material suggests people might see you as abrupt, maybe a bit unfriendly, or just like overly intense, maybe even a bit cold.
It's the absence of that expected social grease that gets noticed.
Precisely. It's not just about being polite, though. That's part of it. It's about setting a certain social tone. It signals that you see the people you're with as, well, people, not just cogs in a machine for whatever task is at hand.
Okay, I get it. It's part of building and maintaining that group rapport, even in a professional setting. You do the human connection bit before you dive into the main, maybe more stressful topic.
Exactly. Establish that connection first. And that cultural expectation is why the material argues so strongly that understanding and practicing small talk is vital if you want to feel, truly comfortable and natural when you're using English in those kinds of environments. It's really fundamental to navigating the social landscape there.
So the takeaway for someone learning English who wants to fit in, make smoother connections, is basically small talk isn't just fluff. It's often a necessary part of the process. It's the oil that keeps the social engine running smoothly.
That's a great way to put it. It's like the conversational handshake. It signals friendliness, openness, and makes the shift to more serious talk, if needed, feel much less abrupt.
Without that handshake, things can feel
Yeah,
stiff,
cool.
awkward.
Definitely.
Right. So we've got the what, like casual chat, the why, comfort, connection, avoiding awkwardness, and the cultural expectation. That gives us the big picture. But then comes the really practical question, the one the material moves on to next. Okay, fine, I get it, I need to do it, but what on earth do I actually say? What are the safe topics, the go-tos?
Yeah, this is where it gets really helpful. The material gives a fantastic list of common small talk topics, describes them as ones that work in almost any situation. These are your reliable starting points.
And number one on the list, almost predictably, is the weather.
The absolute classic. The material even says something like, I know it sounds basic, but trust me, it works.
Yeah.
And you know what? It does. It's basic because everyone experiences it. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, it's a universally shared thing, which makes it the easiest possible entry point for a chat.
You don't need any inside knowledge about the other person. Just look outside or feel the temperature.
Exactly. And it specifically mentions how popular it is in the US, UK, Canada, Australia.
Right, and it even adds that little note about the UK where talking about the weather is practically a national hobby.
Which is such a telling detail. It suggests that while it's available everywhere, this topic has this particularly strong, ingrained cultural role in some places. It's more than just a topic. It's the go-to social starter.
Like a secret handshake everyone knows.
Kinda, yeah. And the material gives simple phrases. It's such a nice day today. Or the opposite, wow, it's freezing outside. These aren't deep thoughts, they're just observations. They invite a simple nod, an agreement, a brief shared moment of, yep, we're both feeling this. You're inviting the other person into that shared reality with a super simple comment.
Okay, weather. Check. Simple, safe, culturally significant in places. What's next on the reliable list?
Weekend plans. This is another one the material flags as inherently safe and easy.
Why is that?
Well, most people have some kind of weekend, or they look forward to one, and generally people are okay talking about what they did or hope to do in their free time. It's usually linked to positive stuff, or at least neutral stuff, relaxing, hobbies, seeing friends.
Right, less likely to be controversial.
Eh,
And the example phrases are super straightforward, asking, got any fun plans for the weekend? Or on a Monday, how was your weekend?
Perfect examples. They show a friendly, casual interest in the other person's life, but without getting too personal. You're asking about their leisure time, which is usually a pretty relaxed zone.
And it's open-ended, right? They can give a short answer or share a bit more.
Exactly. Someone might just say, oh, nothing much, just relaxing. Or they could tell you about a little trip they took or a movie they saw. It lets them choose the level of detail.
Okay, weather, weekend plans. Third big topic the material recommends is travel.
Yes, and it notes quite accurately, I think, that everyone loves talking about travel, or at least many people do. It taps into dreams, aspirations, happy memories, past adventures. It's usually a pretty positive ground for conversation because travel often means excitement, new experiences.
And the suggested starter questions are good. Have you been on any trips lately? Or maybe something broader, like what's your dream travel destination?
Those are great openers. They invite more than just a yes or no, and this is where the material brings in a really vital tip for making small talk actually work.
The follow-up questions.
Exactly. If someone mentions, say, a trip to Italy, you don't just nod, you follow up. The material suggests things like, oh, that sounds amazing. What was your favorite part? Or maybe, wow, how long were you there for?
That's so crucial because small talk isn't just firing one question and getting one answer back. It's supposed to be an interaction, right?
Absolutely. It's a mini conversation.
And as the material implies, using those follow-up questions is how you keep it going. It shows you were actually listening, not just waiting for your turn to talk, and it shows genuine, even if mild, interest.
Right. It turns a simple fact, I went to Italy, into an opportunity for them to share a little story or express some enthusiasm. It keeps that conversational ball gently rolling back and forth.
It makes the difference between an interrogation and a conversation, even a very short one.
Well put. An effective small talker isn't just asking the first question. They're listening and finding that little thread to gently pull on with the next question, keeping it light, keeping it comfortable.
Okay, great tip. And the final safe and easy topic? The material highlights. Food?
Yeah, this one's described as super easy because, well, everyone eats. It's another universal. It gives you tons of potential starting points. Talking about local restaurants, maybe cooking, different cuisines, even just, wow, that sandwich looks good. It's all very accessible.
The suggestive phrases are simple, like, have you tried any good restaurants lately? Or do you like cooking?
Yeah, great entry points. Most people have some opinion or a recent experience with food. Maybe they love cooking. Maybe they just discovered a great pizza place. Maybe they hate cooking but love eating out. Whatever it is, they can usually respond.
As the material says, you can quickly have a conversation from these simple prompts.
Right. And it allows people to share something personal, like a favorite dish or restaurant, but without it feeling too intimate or revealing. It's personal taste, not deep personal secrets.
Okay, so let's recap those safe zones from the material. Weather, weekend plans, travel, and food. You touched on why they're safe, but let's just crystallize that, thinking about the purpose of small talk again.
Sure. So if small talk is about creating comfort, breaking silence, building light connections, these topics nail it. Why? One, they're generally neutral. They usually don't involve those deeply held beliefs that can cause friction, like politics or religion often do.
Great. Neutrality. Check.
Two, they're non-intrusive. You can talk about the weather without revealing anything sensitive about yourself. Even with travel or weekends, you can keep it pretty general if you want. You control the level of detail.
Right. Respects personal boundaries. Check.
And three, they're highly relatable. Almost everyone has some experience or opinion related to weather, weekends, travel, or food. Makes it easy for both people to jump in and find some common ground, even if it's just for a moment.
Low risk, high accessibility.
Exactly. They're designed for easy, positive interaction, the perfect on-ramps to a brief conversation.
That makes total sense when you frame it against the goal of comfortable connection. Okay, so we've got our toolkit of safe topics, but just as vital, according to the material, is knowing what not to talk about, the pitfalls to avoid.
Yes, absolutely. The material makes a clear shift here. Knowing what not to say is maybe just as important for preventing those cringeworthy moments or accidentally causing offense, which totally defeats the whole purpose of small talk.
Okay, first up on the avoid list, and it's a big one. Politics.
Yeah, the material is very direct about this. The reason people have very strong opinions about it, and it can turn into a debate really quickly.
Avoids ambiguity there and adds that specific note that this is, especially in the U.S.
The detail is interesting. It suggests an awareness that while politics can be tricky anywhere, in certain places or times, like the contemporary U.S., the discussion is often extremely polarized and, well, emotionally charged.
So definitely not light and positive.
Not usually, no. Remember, the goal of small talk is comfort, connection, ease. Diving into something that's almost designed to create disagreement and strong emotions.
Yeah.
It's going to fail spectacularly as small talk. Unless you know the person really well, you already know you generally agree, or you've both kind of signaled you want to have a deeper discussion, just steer clear. It's the polar opposite of light and easy.
Okay, so politics is out for initiating casual chat. What's the next topic? The material flags for avoidance.
Money, personal finances.
Ah, okay. Why is that problematic?
The material explains it clearly, asking really direct questions like, so how much do you make? Or, wow, nice car, how much did that cost? Those can make people feel really, really uncomfortable.
And it points out that in many cultures, definitely including most English-speaking ones, talking about money with people you don't know well is generally considered rude, impolite.
It's a strong cultural norm around privacy. How much someone earns, how much things cost, their general financial situation, that's usually seen as private information.
Yeah.
Asking about it directly in a casual chat feels intrusive. It can come across as nosy, maybe judgmental, or just plain inappropriate. Small talk relies on respecting boundaries, and money questions often cross that line.
Got it. Politics, money, definite no-goes for breaking the ice. What's the third category to be careful with? Overly personal topics.
Yes, and the material gives specific examples here. Asking someone their age, their weight, or their relationship status. Just says these topics can be a bit awkward.
Understatement, maybe. Why are they awkward?
Well, they're deeply personal attributes or life circumstances. People might be sensitive about their age or their weight. Relationship status can be complicated, maybe even painful for some people. It's just not information someone might want to share with a relative stranger, right?
Absolutely. And this is where the material offers that really useful practical alternative. It contrasts asking something blunt and potentially awkward like, are you married?
Right.
With suggesting a much safer, more general social question. The example given is, do you have any plans for the holidays?
That comparison is brilliant, I think.
Yeah.
It shows the difference perfectly. Are you married is digging for a specific, potentially sensitive personal fact. Whereas, do you have any plans for the holidays is about activities, shared cultural moments like holidays, things people do. Someone can talk about holiday plans without revealing their relationship status or anything else they might prefer to keep private.
It focuses on shared external events, not internal personal facts. Much safer ground.
Exactly. It's friendly, it's conversational, but it respects that personal space. That strategy focusing on activities, events, shared experiences, rather than static personal details, is a key takeaway for navigating small talk well.
That's a fantastic, actionable tip right there from the material. Okay. And the final category on the avoid list.
Negative topics. Complaining, basically.
Oh,
The material is pretty clear. Starting a conversation by moaning like, I hate my job so much, or, God, this city is just awful. It immediately casts a negative shadow over the whole interaction.
which, as the material points out, goes completely against the vibe of small talk, which should be light and positive. The advice is simple. Try to keep things upbeat.
Yeah, a negative opening puts the other person in a really awkward spot. Do they agree with you? Do they try to cheer you up, offer sympathy, or just try desperately to change the subject?
Right. It feels like you've just dumped your baggage on them in what was supposed to be a light exchange.
Exactly. It can feel like an emotional burden. Small talk is meant to be a brief, usually pleasant moment of connection. Not really the time or place for venting major frustrations. Keeping things generally positive or neutral just makes the interaction much smoother and more welcoming for everyone.
Okay, so let's quickly summarize the avoid list based on the material. Politics, because it leads to arguments. Money, because it's private and intrusive. Overly personal questions about age, weight, relationship status, because they're sensitive. And negative topics or complaining, because they kill the light, positive vibe.
That's it. All of those things introduce elements, conflict, intrusion, sensitivity, negativity, that just don't mesh with the low-stakes, comfortable space that small talk is trying to create. They undermine the whole point.
We've covered a lot, the definition, the purpose, the safe topics, the risky topics. But the material adds another really important layer, the cultural nuances and how this stuff actually plays out in the real world. It makes the point that small talk isn't just what you say, but also how and where you say it. And it acknowledges that its role can even vary a bit between different English-speaking countries.
Yeah, this cultural context part is where it gets really practical. The material says understanding these nuances helps you feel more confident and natural. What's totally normal, small talk in one place might be slightly different or happen less often somewhere else, even if they both speak English.
And it gives specific examples of where small talk is really common and expected in English-speaking cultures. One big one is the workplace.
Yes, it specifically points out that small talk is expected in many situations at work, particularly in those moments before a meeting officially starts, or maybe hanging out in the break room or just passing someone in the hallway.
Right, and it mentions the usual suspects for topics in that setting, like
Mhm.
weekend chat, the weather again, maybe sports if that's a known shared interest.
It anchors those safe topics we discussed earlier into a specific professional context. And that point the material makes about not doing it in a US or UK workplace.
About just jumping straight into the work talk.
Yeah. It says doing that, skipping the preamble, might make you seem a bit too serious or even unfriendly.
Which ties back perfectly to what we said about its purpose, right? It's not wasted time, it's relationship maintenance.
Exactly. It's acknowledging your colleagues as humans first, establishing or just maintaining that friendly connection before you get down to the business, which might be more formal or even stressful.
If you bypass it, it can feel like you only care about the task, not the person, which can come across as cold or purely transactional in cultures that value this kind of social interaction. You're signaling function over fellowship, almost.
Well said. Function over fellowship. I like that.
Okay, so the workplace is a key zone. But the material also shows small talk weaving through everyday life, like getting a coffee.
Yeah, that's a super common scenario.
Yeah.
The material uses the example of chatting with the barista. They might kick it off with a simple, "How's your day going?" while they're making your drink.
And the suggested response is something like, pretty good. Just grabbing some coffee before work. How about you?
And that tiny exchange right there, highlighted in the material, is a perfect snapshot of small talk embedded in a routine transaction. You're there for coffee, they're there to serve it, but that little bit of chat just elevates it slightly. It acknowledges the other person's existence, creates a tiny positive micro connection in public, and makes the whole thing feel a bit nicer than just a silent, purely functional exchange of money for goods.
Humanizes the transaction.
Exactly.
It's those little moments scattered through the day that small talk helps smooth over. The material also mentions it happening on public transport.
Right. Waiting for the bus, sitting on the train. The material suggests you might hear or even join in with comments like, "Wow, busy morning today, huh?" if it's really crowded. Or maybe, "This weather's been crazy this week," if it's been raining nonstop or something unusual.
Again, simple observations about the shared immediate reality. Everyone on that crowded train or waiting in the rain is going through the same thing.
Precisely. And the material explicitly points out that these small comments like these help people feel more connected, even with strangers. That's quite powerful, actually. Small talk isn't just for people you know. It's also a way to feel a little bit part of the wider community, even just for a moment, in public spaces. It combats that feeling of total anonymity by just acknowledging the shared experience with the people physically around you.
It's that social glue idea again, working even between strangers.
Definitely. Reducing friction, increasing a sense of shared space.
That point about feeling connected even with strangers is quite deep, really, considering it comes from such simple things like commenting on the bus being late. And the material loops back again to that British weather example, giving it special focus.
It does. It really wants to hammer home that specific cultural point. It calls weather talk in Britain an easy, neutral topic that can work in almost any situation there.
Giving those classic examples, like the almost ritualistic, lovely day today, isn't it? Or the equally common, slightly more downbeat, looks like it's going to rain again.
Yeah, those examples, plus the earlier comment about it being a national hobby, really show how a seemingly trivial subject can become this deeply embedded cultural shorthand for starting a conversation, bridging a silence. It's like a reliable code everyone in that culture understands and accepts.
It also shows that even within the big category of English-speaking cultures, there are these interesting variations in which topics get the most airtime or how they're used socially.
Exactly. It adds that layer of specificity.
These cultural examples from the material really drive home the point that small talk isn't just about vocabulary or grammar, it's a cultural performance almost, part of the social software. And the material wraps up this section with a really key message for you, the listener. Practicing small talk is essential if you want to sound natural.
Yes, and it directly addresses listeners who might come from cultures where chatting with strangers just isn't the norm. The material clarifies. In English-speaking countries, small talk is a normal and expected part of daily conversation.
That's such a vital piece of advice. It might feel weird or forced or even pointless if your own culture operates differently, but the material is telling us straight. If you want to navigate smoothly and feel comfortable in many English-speaking settings, you kind of have to accept small talk as part of the deal.
It's not just being extra polite, it's an integrated social skill that makes interactions flow better in those contexts.
It definitely requires a bit of a cultural shift for some people, I imagine. Recognizing that these brief, maybe seemingly surface level chats are not only okay, but actually valued because they grease the wheels of social life. They help people feel more connected, more at ease.
It's about understanding the function it serves within that specific cultural framework.
Okay, so this deep dive, really following the path laid out by this material, has covered a lot of ground. We've defined small talk, got why it's important culturally, identified the safe topics, flagged the ones to avoid, all backed up with examples. We've also seen how it works in real life work, coffee shops, buses, and even noted cultural flavors like the British weather obsession.
It's definitely more complex than just chatting, isn't it? It's a specific kind of talk with its own kind of rules and reasons, particularly in these English-speaking contexts.
And the material doesn't just explain it all and leave you there. It actually offers a really practical way for you, the listener, to start putting this into action.
Yeah, it wraps up with a simple three-step challenge. It's designed to get you practicing right away.
Okay, step one, go out and actually start a small talk conversation in English. Find a low stakes opportunity, maybe the barista, maybe someone waiting in line with you, and just initiate. Take the first step.
Step 2, when the other person responds, listen, and then try to ask a follow-up question based on what they said, just to keep it going for one more turn, maybe
Right.
two. Practice that listening and responding part.
And step three, make a conscious effort to use at least one of the phrases or topics we talked about today. Maybe comment on the weather, ask about the weekend if it's Monday or Friday, mention food or travel if it comes up naturally. Pick one comfortable tool from the toolbox.
It's a really smart challenge because it directly connects the theory to the practice. It's honestly the best way to build confidence and make this skill feel less awkward and more automatic over time. You don't have to have a long chat. Just start small, pay attention to how it goes, and practice again later.
It turns all this information from our deep dive into something you can actually use in your life, starting today. Because mastering small talk, as this material really stresses, is a pretty fundamental skill for anyone operating in English-speaking environments.
It really is. It's key for making those first connections, for navigating social moments more easily, and just generally feeling more comfortable and part of things when you're using English day to day in many places around the globe. It's the lubricant, like you said.
Yeah, it bridges those potentially silent gaps and just opens the door, even just a crack, to a positive human interaction. So, thinking back on everything we've unpacked from this material today, we saw how small talk isn't even exactly the same. Everywhere English is spoken. Remember that specific point about the UK and weather versus maybe more general expectations elsewhere?
Right. The material definitely hinted at those subtle variations in how and where it happens culturally.
Which kind of leads to a final thought, something for you to maybe mull over. How might those subtle differences in small talk habits, even between, say, the US and the UK, actually reflect deeper cultural values or different communication styles in those places? Like, what might the emphasis on weather in the UK suggest about, I don't know, maybe a preference for shared understatement or finding common ground in the face of uncontrollable forces? Just speculating.
That's interesting to think about.
Or maybe stepping back even further. How does learning about these specific expectations around English small talk make you see conversations in your own first language or home culture differently? Are there similar unwritten rules, preferred safe topics, or is it completely different?
Yeah, comparing and contrasting can really highlight the hidden structures in communication everywhere. Makes you more aware overall.
Exactly. So take the insights from this deep dive, drawn from the material we explored, maybe give that little practice challenge a shot, and just keep observing, keep participating in those little conversations around you. The more you practice this skill, the more it really will start to feel like a natural, comfortable part of how you communicate in English.
Absolutely. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep making those connections.